Welcome to Greek for a Week. I'm glad that you are looking at another video this week. And as you can tell, we are continuing in our study of the book of 1 Peter, specifically 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 16 and 17. Again, part of the overall paragraph of 12 through 19. We'll begin by translating, and then I want to point out a few things here. So here's verse 16. We'll see that it will begin with a conditional clause. Verse 17 will also have a conditional clause in that one. He says, but if anyone suffers, as a Christian, he is not to be disgraced or put to shame, but let him glorify God in this name, because it is time to begin judgment from the household of God. And if it begins from us, what is the end of the ones who disobey the gospel of God? So here's the gospel of God. So again, as we mentioned already, this first is a first-class conditional clause. That's the protasis of that first-class conditional clause. And it's if anyone suffers. Now, the word suffers is not in the text, but the word suffers is pointing back to its use in verse 15. The de here signals a change in suffering from the corrupt behavior of verse 15 to suffering as a Christian here in verse 16. Here is the third person singular imperative. That is a present middle imperative of eis kuno. It's not just the idea of don't be ashamed and don't be disgraced, but really it has the idea of the denial of one's faith. So Peter's going as strong as to say, don't deny the faith, but here's the contrast, but he is suggesting here, stating that you glorify. There's your third person singular, present active imperative of doxazo. So here you have the me de counterpoint, if you will. So it's negated here, but really that negation is written in such a way that it emphasizes this imperative here. Don't be ashamed, but rather glorify God. The last phrase here, the en to onomati tuto, in this name. Dubus in his Baylor handbook, as well as Forbes in the exegetical handbook there published by Brobman and Holman, they both see this phrase as a dative of sphere. Forbes specifically states that more likely it's to involve some activity or action. This could entail acknowledging one's faith in the midst of distress, maintaining a proper non-retaliatorial response, or even more widely of having a lifestyle that is consistent with this name. So rather than suggesting this N here is causal, in other words, let him glorify God because of this name, he's suggesting it's a dative of sphere because there's an action or an activity. He also then says, in conjunction with the second imperative, doxa zeto, he says the epistle has such a strong ethical focus that it is difficult to imagine the author thinking of glorifying God merely in a subjective term. Consequently, glorifying God should be understood as maintaining appropriate ethical conduct. So basically, the activity and the conduct that this recipient has should be in the fact that he is in his name. The hati here is causal, which just simply provides the motivational grounds for the preceding exhortations. You have an infinitive here. This infinitive with the article, probably an exegetical infinitive, further defining time. That is, it is time here to do what? To begin. So that further defines the time. And then the tu oiku tu theou, this phrase here is this word here would refer to household. Specifically, it's a possessive genitive. It's God's household. And then lastly, again, here's another de with a first class conditional clause e. That, again, another further step in the argument. Trust this has been helpful. Verses 16 and 17. We'll do 18 and 19 next week. Have a great week.